certainly looking forward to an event happening this Friday. It is part of a series of events called the Sturt Lectures in honour of John and Agnes Sturt, who are pretty much pioneers of Christian counselling in New Zealand. It's an event that's organised by the counselling team at Laidlaw College, and we're heading up. That team is Lisa Spriggins. She joins me on the program now. Kia ora, good morning. Thanks for your time today.
Kia ora, thanks for having me.
We'll get into the details of the event, but firstly wanting to honour John and Agnes Sturt. These guys are legends. I was saying off air beforehand that I've been at Rhema so long. I remember interviewing both of them a few years ago now, but the books that they wrote, their approach to counselling, certainly a wonderful legacy that they have.
Absolutely. And we've been running lectures in their kind of memory and their name since 2012 or 13. I think 2013 was actually our first one, and really focused on the integration of theology and counselling practice. That's the focus. Mm-hmm. And this year's slightly different, as we'll talk about. But yeah, that's where historically we've been delivering the Sturt Lectures, and it's been a real honour to do that in John's name.
Very good indeed. Now, just wanted to talk about that integration, because this is, I suppose, one of the key distinctives of Laidlaw College, and people think, oh, Laidlaw, that's the Bible college, right? So much more than a Bible college.
Absolutely.
And being able to integrate life and faith, the theological theory and counselling practice. You head up the counselling team. This is, people can do counselling, but through a Christian lens, through a Christian worldview?
Yes. So we offer a 3-year degree in counselling, and that gives people the necessary qualifications to go out into the world and practice counselling in all different kinds of areas. And I think one of the really special distinctives is the way that we integrate theology into our counselling practice, and that becomes kind of the foundation of understanding who we are as human persons, who we were created to be. And we talk a lot about how we were created to be in relationship with God and ourselves and others. And kind of from that theological foundation and that idea of the kinds of flourishing God calls us into, we then bring in counselling theory and practice on top of that theological foundation. So I think it's a pretty special degree. It's a fairly unique degree.
Wonderful combination of disciplines there. And hey, just getting into the topic of the Sturt Lecture series for this year, because actually sometimes churches aren't places of wholeness and healing. They're not the places that we want them to be in terms of caring for people holistically. And of course, we've had the recent report into abuse in care, the Royal Commission of Inquiry, and actually for many people in New Zealand, too many people, of course, the church has been a part of that story of abuse and neglect. We need to own that, I suppose, as the church in Aotearoa, but also find better practice, better ways of doing this.
Absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, the church is full of human beings, and so it's not a perfect institution. Yeah. And as you mentioned, the Royal Commission of Inquiry, their final report is due out towards the middle of next year. And as they've gone through that process over the last few years, there have been kind of interim reports released, and I think it's very clear that in terms of different aspects of the church or areas of the church and expressions, whether it's through Christian schools or youth ministries or all different versions of that, there is some kind of reckoning that the church needs to have, and a way of being able to sit and face its history and also reach for hope and reach for that what we desire the church to be, a place of flourishing and healing and restoration. And so the hope is with the Sturt Lectures to really kind of offer a chance to sit and reflect and notice some of the harm that has happened in the church in various ways, but also that our world as a whole is a place that's caused harm, and people sitting in churches and participating in churches experience trauma in many different ways inside and outside of the church, and that we are called to to be a place of healing for them, and how that might happen.
I think this is one of the perhaps this is why it's so shocking, because as you say, there is brokenness, there is hurt, there is abuse tragically in every different aspect of society. It just seems more shocking in a church context because certainly from my point of view, you expect this to be a safe place. You expect this to be a place of healing and wholeness. You expect this to be based on the principles of Jesus. But like you say, it's also organisations run by broken, sinful human beings who spectacularly get this wrong.
Yes, we appear to.
Yeah.
History tells us that we have. And I think our first response needs to not be defensiveness. It needs to be humility and sitting with that and recognising that and then reaching forward. But we can't do the reaching forward until we've sat and acknowledged the space that we're in and the history that we have in different ways, and the harm that we've caused, which, as you say, is not actually what the church is meant to be about and doesn't reflect the nature of Jesus at all. Yeah.
This event happening on Friday, it's called the Trauma-Informed Church. What does that look like in your view, Lisa? What does a church which is informed by trauma in its practices and in the way it connects with people who have perhaps had traumatic backgrounds, what does that look like?
Oh, well, come along on Friday and find out, but I'll give you a
sneak peek, perhaps. Yeah.
I'll give you a snapshot now. I think there's trauma-informed as a phrase tends to refer to a framework, a series of principles around trauma-informed practice that is used in healthcare, church, education settings more broadly. I think specifically how it applies to the church in Aotearoa New Zealand is firstly recognising the impact of trauma, its effects, that it's far-reaching, that it's lasting, it has a fundamental impact on a person's life and their community, the other people they're in relationship with. Yeah. So a key starting point is really understanding deeply the impact that trauma has. In the Aotearoa New Zealand context, I think it's really important that we also understand the impact that trauma has in different ways in terms of different people in our community. I'm thinking about the Māori community and the effects of colonisation and how these impacts ripple out intergenerationally, that people are bearing trauma and scars sort of kind of being handed down as a really sad legacy from trauma in the past. And we need to acknowledge that and sit with that. So that's the first step, is really getting your head around that stuff and sitting with it. As a counsellor, you kind of get bit used to that, and it's how do you in a snapshot way you make that available for other people.
Is part of the problem on this one that I suppose the training isn't there? I mean, you're a trained counsellor, you lead a team of people who train other counsellors, but often in a church situation, it's people with a good heart having a go. That in terms of our best practice, we don't even have a way of being able to measure how we do that as church communities. Yes, we want to be involved in pastoral care, but sometimes we're just stepping on people's toes and perhaps re-wounding people rather than doing any good despite our best intentions. Is that part of the problem?
Absolutely. And sometimes a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing as well. There's a really fine balance, and part of the training is knowing how to use the knowledge and skills you have, and knowing when is appropriate to kind of connect someone and refer someone to a more experienced person in a particular field. So I think understanding the difference between pastoral care and counselling, valuing both of those things, that they offer really important gifts to our communities, and and making sure that they're being used correctly and training people appropriately. And And quite frankly, I think knowing and understanding trauma is something that anyone can learn.
Yeah.
It's not secret knowledge. And I think making people more aware of that will change how we are with ourselves. The number of times I've run workshops on this stuff, and as people have sat there and listened, they've gone, oh, that makes sense. That explains why I react a certain way. And being more aware of ourselves will help, as well as being aware of others.
So the event happening this Friday, I understand it's happening in close proximity to Laidlaw's brand new campus in the heart of Henderson there.
Yes.
People can still register for this. They can still be a part of it, Lisa?
Absolutely. Registrations are open until Thursday. So you look on the Laidlaw website, you'll be able to find links through to that event.
Yep.
We'd love to have people come and join us, particularly if you're involved in pastoral care and leadership in your church communities. I think it's really important that we lead from the top and lead in a way that carries this knowledge with us. No,
certainly. Thank you so much for the work that you do. Certainly looking forward to being involved personally. And for people, I suppose it recognises the need that we have, the gap that we have in our lineup in churches, and for perhaps people are considering, hey, what's next for me in terms of 2024? Again, not too late for people to prayerfully consider a counselling degree through Laidlaw as well?
No, not too late. We would welcome all expressions of interest. I think, have a look on the website again, and you can find out more information around that. And really happy to have conversations with people. People can take a long time to decide to do a counselling degree. Yep. I've had people tell me the application's been in their drawer for 5 years.
Wow.
But come and talk, and we can maybe make that happen faster.
And maybe next year is your season in that space. Lisa, thank you so much for the work that you do. Laidlaw.ac.nz, of course, the website referred to. Very much looking forward to being involved on Friday, and hope to see lots of people listening to this there as well. Kia ora, thanks for your time today.
Thanks.